Hello everyone. I've wondered if you've had a chance to create a distance learning science journal yet. I think it's a great idea. I know some of the kids in my class made one. You can do anything from folding some printer paper in half and putting some holes in it. I used yarn to tie it together, or a lot of us have been taking notes on a bunch of random pieces of paper. You can just tie them together. Or you probably have some old folders or binders around, but I like keeping all of my science stuff in one place. Today we are talking about the needs all living things have. Remember, this includes anything that is made of cells. Things that are made of cells have to take in energy. They get rid of waste and they grow. Now, I know Duncan thinks that he needs Pokemon cards, but that's really a want, isn't it? Not a need. So when we're talking about living things, I'm going to just put this in my journal. And this is kind of half a sheet, so you don't need a big thing. I'm going to write at the top, life has needs. And remember, when I say life, I really mean all living things, okay? We're talking about bacteria. We're talking about fungus, we're talking about plants, we're talking about animals. So this is really all living things have things that they need to continue living. So let's start with plants. Let's start easy. What kinds of things do plants need? So I'm going to write over here, plants. Give myself a little space, talk about plants only. Well, we all know that plants need sunlight, right? Plants are growing outside. Most of the plants that you encounter are green. They are using that green chemical to help make food. And so we're going to draw our sun. I always like to put sunspots on my sun and remember that this burning ball of gas does have different temperatures on its surface. And so when I talk about plants, I'm going to draw the sun, and I might even draw my little light energy, ray of energy coming out of the sun. And I'm going to draw myself a sunflower, kind of put little spots on there. I wonder how many of you watched the bad seed video that Duncan and I did while we were growing our sunflowers. So I'm going to draw my little sunflower and the stem. Some leaves, and make this under the ground because it's going to have to get roots. Because why? The plant not only needs sunlight, but it needs water too. You've probably watered plants for someone when they've been out of town, or if you've got your plant in a terrarium, you need water. So it needs water, sun, and air. Right? And really plants use CO2, but we can just write air in parentheses. Okay? So if you were to put the plant in a baggie for a long time, it would run out of the carbon dioxide. Oh, that's such a terrible arrow. It would run out of the carbon dioxide it needs. If you were to stick it in a closet for a long time, it would not be able to grow. If you were to stop watering it, all of these things are things that plants need. Next, we're going to talk about animals, because the great thing about animals is they can go out and solve their problems when their needs change. So what do animals really need? Animals. Well, this kind of makes me think of a Survivor show, like one of those Bear Grylls. And what are the basic things you need when you're stuck out in the wild is they need food. Animals need food. Not as often as you think. I know some of us have been at home for a while and we seem to eat like 15 times a day. That's probably from the point of someone doing dishes, but we need food. Did you know that we could live about 3 weeks without food? Now, of course, that depends on the type of animal and what kind of food it eats, but people could live about 3 weeks. We also need water. All living things need water. It's an awesome thing about our planet, but we can really only make it 3 days without water. So that's why on those survivor shows, they get to work so fast trying to get water. Now this one's kind of weird, shelter. The general rule of thumb is 3 hours, but we all know we could hang out all day long on a beautiful spring day without a shelter. It really does depend on if you're in extreme climate or not, if it's too hot or too cold or too dry. But the one thing that is the deal breaker is we need air, okay? Air. Now, plants need different parts of the air than people do, but we can't go really more than 3 minutes. Even the best trained deep divers can't go more than like 7 minutes without air. But air we need every 3 minutes. So, I'm going to put oxygen. Of course, if I was a plant, I'd put carbon dioxide. But sometimes these needs change. So, when the needs change, we change. It's kind of like what we're doing right now with distance learning. Our needs have changed, and we've had to change how we're learning and how we're working together. So, when needs change, we change. When needs change, we change. The great thing about being an animal is you can get up and walk away if things aren't working for you, right? You'll learn a little bit more in middle school that sometimes plants can have some responses to changes in their environment, but it's a little more obvious with animals. So, what is the first thing we do when we change? What is our first response? We get mad. M.A.D. Yeah, I know when the things that I need change, it's frustrating. We've had some frustrating moments being at home, I'm sure. What does M.A.D mean? This acronym, M, what's the first thing we can do? We can move or migrate. Where you're at, if you are at Kroger and you need paper towels, you can move over to Albertsons and you can get paper towels there if Kroger doesn't have it. Vice versa. We can move and change what we're doing. Some animals move or migrate every year depending on where their food is. Another thing we can do is we can adapt. If it's getting too hot in the day for the bird to find its worm, what if the bird wakes up earlier when it's cooler out? You can change how you behave. You could change what you eat. Maybe something has happened to the worms and the birds start eating beetles. So you can change what it eats. Or what it does. Try something different, because what you're doing isn't working when things change. And finally, we could die or perish. This is not really how animals roll in the animal world, though. They will do what they need to do to find the needs. They're not really going to sit down. A wolf's not going to sit on a prairie and have a pity party that all of the elk have moved on. The wolf will start moving. The wolf will try to eat other things. So, move or migrate, change or perish. These are things that an animal can do when its needs change.